Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick.
This is a less hairy Justin.
And welcome back to the desolate wasteland of the Junkyard, where we take a look at some just awful X-Wing ships.
We're going to keep with the scum theme for a little while longer.
For a little bit longer, bit of an emergency episode this week. We just had Wave 5 announced. In that, we had revealed 2 scum ships. 2 of them that aren't actually doing that well right now. We're going to talk about the Jumpmaster in this episode, but the Sick Fighter also
might one day.
Might one day as well. Yes, indeed. So yes, we're talking about the Jumpmaster today because it has fallen from glory in a big way.
It was once the big bad boogeyman of the game.
Absolutely. Back in the day when it came out, it was just way too efficient. I mean, the devs at FFG are the first to admit it. And it could do really dumb things. In fact, let's talk about the original meta list with the Jumpmaster. 3 contracted scouts, all with Deadeye plasma torpedoes, K4 security droids and unhinged astromechs, and extra munitions and guidance chips. See, it's that burned into my head that I can still remember. But yeah, just ultra efficient torpedoes, free powering out of target locks, unhinged astromech for just all the green on the dial, would be blue these days. Just crazy nonsense. And this kind of design was problematic because it was just too easy to get it working. A big base ship in first edition was not as problematic as it was in second edition. In fact, it was more upside than downside back in the day. And just being able to power out target locks with that very efficient dial was just crazy. After that sort of became a big thing, then we had Dengaroo, which was Dengar and Manaroo doing just ultra degenerate stuff, and Dengar could just bam, shoot over and over again. He could just solo an entire list. Look, I don't really have to go through this list and talk about it. It was just really dumb, and you are lucky to have started playing the game after those things were no longer an issue. After like the 5th or something nerf they gave it, it finally fell out of favour. They changed the upgrade slots. I don't think they changed the points from memory, but they really dialed this thing back.
They did a lot.
And they had to do a lot because, frankly, it was just way too efficient. They originally took its torpedo slots away. Interestingly, in second edition, they actually put it back. But instead of that, they implemented a few other nerfs instead. It has its torpedo slot back. It doesn't have an astromech. You now get an astromech slot through the Punishing One card in exchange for that crew. So you still don't have both.
Yeah, which I think is fair enough.
I think it's very fair. I really like the design they chose to go with that. Punishing One used to just give you another red dice on all your attacks. Or it used to increase your primary attack value. Now it only does that if you're firing against a ship inside your forward firing arc. Not necessarily meaning you have to have your rotating arc facing forward. Because you could theoretically shoot sideways at a ship that's in your forward firing arc. That's possible. So it's a little bit better than just doing that, but still way less powerful than it used to be. So let's take a look at this ship in the context of second edition. Its stat line reads 2 red dice with a little single rotating arc thingamajig, 2 agility, 6 hull and 3 shield.
The actions are focus to red rotate arc, target lock to red rotate arc, and a red barrel roll.
Yep. Upgrade bar reads torpedo, crew, illicit modification title, and of course, if you take that Punishing One, you change that crew over to an astromech. So this action bar is pretty rough. It still has its barrel roll, but it's red. It can only rotate the arc with a red action linked specifically off a focus or target lock, and it only has one single mobile turret. It's very clear to me that FFG were really cautious with this one. Which, look, makes sense. If you weren't around in first edition when this thing was just going off, you would completely understand why. It doesn't have on its dial a white S loop anymore. Good. That was stupid. Don't ever do that again, FFG. It only has a S loop in the one direction. That is to the left. In fact, this is the only asymmetric dial in the game because if you take a look at the model itself, the engine is on one side, meaning it can turn better or more efficiently in that direction. Hence, it favors the left-hand side.
Yeah, which I really like. I like that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't have, white turns on the right-hand side. It's a much fairer dial.
Yeah.
And even though things like, Unhinged Astromech, the design of that card still exists in R4 Astromech, it doesn't go on large base ships anymore. So you actually can't improve this dial.
Yeah.
Which is good. That's very good.
Don't do that.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, all of these things have added up to a ship that is just completely ineffectual. Look, while it was completely degenerate in first edition, I don't think it was this far off being problematic. I think it could have been a little bit more conservative with these changes and it still would have seen a bit of play. But at the same time, I get the mentality with FFG. They just didn't want this being a problem anymore.
No.
And it's not. It's so unmeta viable that it basically has barely seen any play. The occasional Dengar does make it into tier lists because of how well that still works with Punishing One, and that's still a powerful effect. Dengar's pilot ability and Punishing One, but that's pretty much it at this stage. In fact, let's talk about these pilots. So we have the Contractor Scout, which is Initiative 2, no talent, which was a strong move because it did have a talent in first edition.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
it was
dumb.
Dumb is correct. It's 46 points for Initiative 2. So the buy-in for this ship is 46 points, which is actually pretty good for a ship this tanky. Probably still a bit expensive considering how unbrilliant light-based ships are in the meta right now.
I reckon it could probably save a point or two. Well,
I think, yes.
If we wanted to.
We will talk about this in a second, but yes, I absolutely agree with that. Moving on to our named pilots, let's just go up through initiatives. We have Manaru Initiative 3, does have a talent for a buy-in cost of 1 point, total 47 points. At the start of the engagement phase, you may choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 1. If you do, transfer all green tokens assigned to you to that ship.
That feels good for 1 point.
It feels very, very good for 1 point.
And initiative up one and a ability
and a talent. I think, look, mainly the talent is the big thing.
Yeah.
Now, this was really dumb in first edition because you could take things like Recon Specialist. We still have Perceptive Co-Pilot, so you can still do like the double focus thing and pass them off. But there isn't any really dumb combo with this. It doesn't pass target locks like it used to in first edition. You used to be able to take Push the Limits, K4 Security Droid, and Recon Specialist as well. Yeah. So you could double focus target lock and pass it all to a friendly ship. You can't do that.
No, I'm happy that.
Yeah, you're happy that doesn't exist. I don't blame you.
Like, so target locks as well being passed across, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
Indeed. In fact, the only thing we have now is Perceptive Co-Pilot. Even like the combination of IG-88C with this carrying the IG-88D crew doesn't work anymore because it can't take a boost. The engine upgrade doesn't work on it, which was like a kind of a fringe strategy that some players used in like weirder tiny mind links. Oh yeah, tiny mind links.
Yeah, that's
let's I mean that's dead and buried since way before second edition came out. But that was another thing that made Manaru really, really powerful. Manaru is always something to have a look at if green token efficiency is somehow introduced into the Scum faction. I will briefly talk about this again when we talk about some of the changes FFG might make. But yeah, Manaru not in a brilliant spot right now. Okay, moving over to Rivera, a 4-point buy-in for a total of 50 points. Initiative 4, talent again. If you are destroyed, you may spend a charge. If you do, discard all of your damage cards, suffer 5 damage, and place yourself in reserves instead. At the start of the next planning phase, place yourself within range 1 of your player edge. Essentially, what it's saying is if you get destroyed, you respawn with 1 health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you can't recharge that charge.
No, there's no way to do that. No. There's no astromechs like Chopper only work currently with other upgrade cards, and there's nothing like that on the Scum faction anyway. So whatever. The only real combo you have with this right now is hull upgrade. You can respawn with 2 health instead of 1. You're getting double the value out of the hull upgrade, which is actually pretty decent. In first edition, there was determination, which basically made you discard all of your pilot cards as you got them. And you would take things like Greedo to specifically take damage, cards face up, and then discard it. And then Rivera would just be an absolute tank. Coupled with the fact that Punishing One doesn't really work with him anymore, there's just not enough going for this pilot. Also, in first edition, we had Veteran Instincts, and Rivera was pilot skill 7, and he did make it into one Worlds list. In fact, the World Champ. A few years ago, the winning list at Worlds had a Rivera Dengar list, and Rivera had Veteran Instincts, so they were just both pilot skill 7. Would be the equivalent now of having 2 ships with initiative 6. Which is dumb. And you basically just ignore the pilot ability at that stage. But you can't do that anymore. Again, all the toys have just been packed up and taken away. Dengar, on the other hand, is the one pilot I look at here and go, no, this is actually fine. Like, with a simple points reduction or something, Dengar could easily see play.
Yeah, 58 points.
Indeed. So that is a 12-point bind. I think that's absolutely fine. Initiative 6 talent. After you defend, if the attack is in your forward firing arc, again, it doesn't have to specifically be against a ship that you're firing at forwards. It's just how positioning works. You may spend a charge to perform a bonus attack against that attacker. You get 1 recurring charge. So this is a one-off bonus attack per turn. It's exactly the same as it was in first edition. Bonus attack means, yes, it can be a torpedo attack. That's absolutely fine. It didn't have... In first edition, you could fire 360, and that was the main difference here. But it still had to be in your forward firing arc for it to work. And this is really powerful and works really well with the new design of Punishing One.
Yeah, I like it.
It's quite scary, actually. If the Jumpmaster does become efficient, Dengar could still see relevant play. Indeed, after the original nerfs in the Jumpmaster, Dengar did still see play towards the end of first edition. He wasn't completely dumb and degenerate. Like Dengar Asajj and Dengar Nim lists were a big thing towards the end of first edition.
Hey, I stopped playing. I'm all aboard second edition now.
Oh, yeah. There was some real dumb stuff towards the end of first edition. There were a lot of players that took a little break from this kind of a thing. Look, Dengar is the one pilot I look at and go, look, there's no special source that he needs right now. I think he's actually already in a good spot. It's just the platform needs to be a bit more efficient, and I think that's the key thing, which is looking at points.
Yeah, all these look good.
These look good if you think about what they could combo with.
Yeah.
I like Manaru and Tel. I just don't think they have the pieces to make them work right now. Dengar, it could be good.
Yeah, it's just like a hair's breadth away.
That's it. And look, honestly, I think the key thing looking at this is it's just not point efficient enough, which is actually interesting because this is the 3rd episode of the Junkyard we've spoken about, and this is the first time that I go, definitely change the points. The TIE Aggressor, the Kiraz, I don't think necessarily need a points change, although I don't disagree that those might fix those platforms. The Jumpmaster is one I look at and go, look, if this was just a few points cheaper, it would be much more competitive.
Yeah.
And it literally could be the only change that FFG introduced to it, and that would be absolutely fine. I think like 2 or 3 points across the board would be good.
And, of course, FFG are always bringing out new toys for people to play with.
Absolutely.
With the next wave coming out, we've got the plasma torpedoes.
Indeed. And this is absolutely something I want to talk about because they were a key thing that made the Jumpmaster very powerful in first edition. And we can see here on the spread of the Hyena Bomber that, well, it's almost guaranteed to be plasma torpedoes. Yeah. And what plasma torpedoes was in first edition was an ultra cheap, efficient torpedo card. Whether that's a design that FFG want to explore in second edition remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I mean, they really could make the rule that no, torpedoes are expensive and they belong more in aces like Luke and Wedge. I get that. That's basically where proton torpedoes are right now. Jumpmasters don't really want them because of how expensive they are.
Yeah.
But then again, they could just power it down so it's fair. Like we were saying before, 6 points for this effect straight into second edition would be kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But if it only had 3 red dice, I wouldn't hate that, actually.
Yeah, and if it's only 1 charge as well.
1 charge? I would err on the side of 2. 1 charge, it's 2 feel-bads. 1 charge is generally reserved for things like advanced proton torpedoes and that kind of thing. True. You might be right. Like you maybe that's the way they have to make it efficient. Yeah. My gut just says 2 is correct. And even at 3 red dice, you're still eliminating your opponent's range bonus. You're still adding 1 dice to your regular attack. And you can still plink off a shield. I mean, that free damage at the end of plasma torpedoes is great. It's something we just don't get in second edition. Bottom line, power this card down is what I'm saying. But this is something I'm looking at that is key on the Scum faction. There is really no other ship in the Scum faction that really wants this kind of effect. In terms of torpedo carriers, we have, Kimagillas, Star Vipers. I'm sure I'm missing something. Let's just have a quick scroll through this on yet another squad builder. Y-Wings. Yeah, I don't really want Alpha striking Y-Wings.
It'd be cool, though.
It'd be cool, yeah. Skirgs don't have torpedoes anymore. No, that's kind of sad. Alpha striking on Y-Wings is interesting, but their dial is bad and they don't have as much reach as a big base ship. This is the key thing with the Jumpmaster. This is a key thing that could actually leverage the big base over other ships. That reach is what it wants.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to leverage its own torpedoes against like X-Wings firing torpedoes and that kind of stuff, it actually gets back to a place where there's a bit more equilibrium between small and big bases. Both of them have agency to use torpedoes really effectively. And that is something that I think the Jumpmaster is really looking at in terms of playing viability. There's another thing about this recent reveal of the Jumpmaster in Wave 5 that I want to talk about as well.
Yeah.
Because we got confirmation, no new pilots, no new upgrades. Yes, very sad, whatever. But we did get this card here on the spread, the Dengar Gunner card.
Which I didn't notice at the time.
No, actually, I didn't notice either. Somebody in the comment section of that video pointed that out. And this is interesting because, yes, okay, it could just be for the quick build cards and Dengar Gunner just goes on one of them randomly, even though it's an illegal build that quick build cards do that. But it could potentially mean that the Jumpmaster is getting a gunner slot.
Which feels kind of nice.
It feels very nice, actually. And there's a few key things, a few key implications which I really like about that. First of all, I'm looking particularly at the Han Gunner card. If FFG ever decide to bring this guy back down in points, which I think is a viable thing, they really jacked it up in response to the amount of meta play it had on Boba Fett, which is fair enough. I'm not disagreeing with that one a little bit, but I don't think it's anywhere close to being viable at 12 points. I think it could easily come down a few points and see viability on other platforms. Because right now, Han is just unplayable because of his 12-point buy-in. And that could be very interesting on something like Dengar. He engages before most other ships most of the time, so getting that focus token early is really good. But what else is interesting on Dengar is Greedo.
Yeah. Now, this card is only worth 1 point.
And I think, look, if it saw meta viability, it would go up, but nevertheless.
But at the same time, though, its ability, is it... I don't know.
If it was a meta viable thing to play on Dengar, I think it could still be like 3 or 4 points and that wouldn't matter. It would not kill the card at all.
Yeah.
Let's read the card right now. It has 1 recurring charge. While you perform an attack, you may spend a charge to change a hit to a crit result. While you defend, if your charge is active, the attacker may change a hit to a crit result. Basically, what it's saying is if you shoot first, you get a free, like, Mangler Cannon hit to crit kind of effect.
Yeah.
But if you get shot first, your opponent can do that to you. So you want this on Initiative 6 pilots. Dengar. Dengar right there.
Not only do you want it on Initiative 6, but you also want a nice bid.
Absolutely. So the points and everything really stack up by now. If they just give it the gunner, that's very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, look, you can put Greedo on what? Boba Fett, Bosk, a Y-Wing. But we're sort of talking like Cap Initiative 4-5. Yeah. And they feel bad if like they're flying against Vader or Sunterfell. Right now in X-Wing, there's no way to just use veteran instincts to outbid your opponent with pilot skill or initiative as it's now called. Except if your opponent's running Null. I don't think the presence of Null in the meta would really prevent me from playing Greedo, to be honest.
No, but like if I was playing against you and you had Greedo, I'd be feeling relatively good about myself.
You'd be trying to headhunt Dengar with that. That's very dangerous though if I set up my arc so I get bonus attacks against you.
Yeah.
Also, Dengar's got 3 shields, so he can take a crit or 2 before it becomes a problem.
That is true.
And hopefully the idea is he can nullify Null's ability before that becomes a problem. And yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is here, if they do add the gunner slot onto it, there is a clear option that has some viability. Also, let's just quickly talk about the card Bosk as well, because this is another one I'm curious about. A little bit steep at 10 points, but not terrible on pilots like Manaru.
Yeah, probably not so good on Dengar because Dengar's already got a bonus attack.
Yeah, but on Manaru, because Manaru is already wanting to pass off tokens, so she's not likely to hit her attacks. If he has 2 attacks, well, that gives her a bit more viability, yeah. Tell Rivera, I don't know, if we have a really tanky build with him, it might be something worth looking at. It's not uninteresting, put it that way. I think, realistically, Bosk probably has to come down in points before he sees much meta viability, but it's certainly something worth looking at on the Jumpmaster and something I'm very curious about. And I think these are the key things we're looking at. It's cards that are coming out and potential points changes and potential upgrade slot changes. I think that's the key thing we're looking at in the Jumpmaster. I have no problem with these existing pilots whatsoever.
No.
I have no problem with the design of the frame one little bit. I think it makes a really cool alpha striking platform. I think the Dengar with punishing one title, firing twice out of the forward arc and just hammering opponents, I think both of those designs are still fine. It doesn't need more pilots.
No.
And these are the key things we're looking at. And the cool thing is, I say all this, and it might be coming already. We might just get all this stuff, and
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that Jumpmasters are good, not like they were.
Yeah, not original Jumpmasters.
Hashtag no toilet seat meta. That's my closing thoughts on this.
That's a good way to close.
Absolutely. Anyway, guys, in the comment section below, your thoughts on future Junkyard episodes. By the way, I'm getting a lot of comments for the Decimator and YT-2400, and I just want to make a quick comment on that, because I think the key things that make those ships suffer is the fact that they're big base ships. And in that, their problems aren't really that unique. So if you are interested in us talking about those platforms, tell us why. I'd be interested to have a conversation about those for sure. In the meantime, what do you think about the Jumpmaster? Do you think these changes are interesting? Do you think we didn't talk about something that you think should happen? Does it need more pilots? Does it need just like an upgrade card that says just increase all the stats of everything and just make it dumb? All kinds of stuff.
Get unhinged astromech ability.
That's right, all the kind of dumb stuff. Do you think Jumpmasters were fine in first edition and we should shut up and we go right back to that meta? No. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Reddit. Please consider supporting us on Patreon as well. And thank you so much to all of our existing patrons. We'll catch you in the next video.
Bye.